Well, the other headline that's very interesting on the front page of the Courier Mail tomorrow says petrol hits $2.38 a litre. Petrol prices have reached a new record across southeast Queensland as the state's cost of living crisis deepens. Now, according to the Courier Mail, just a month ago, the price of petrol was $2.29. It's now in 1 out of 5 service stations, 10 cents a litre higher, and they're telling people you better fill up fast. The paper goes on to say that the OECD has cut production, the Australian dollar is weaker, so the wholesale price of fuel has gone up, and they expect petrol stations in Queensland to pass that on in the coming week. So if you're low on fuel after the show tonight, Caleb, you should get in your car and go fill up while you can. Whoever thought that we'd be saying if you can find petrol for $2 a litre, that's an absolute bargain.
Steal.
Well done.
Great deal. Get on it. And one of the ridiculous things here, point number one, is that fuel is now one of the biggest contributors to inflation in this country, and that's what the RBA has been talking about recently. Now we talk about in other circumstances inflation's going down, but fuel is still keeping it up above where it should be. So if we see another interest rate rise, it may well be on the back of these fuel prices. The second point is the reason we end up in these situations is our fuel reserves in Australia, and this is similar across the West. In the US, they've been draining their fuel reserves for some time, are so low, which means we are heavily reliant on the ebbs and flows of the market, which is more or less controlled by Saudi Arabia. And so they can at any time say, well, we're going to cut off the flow of the fuel, which inflates the price, which means they can sell it for more. They laugh all the way to the bank, and we're the ones paying for it. We're doing this to ourselves.
It makes us completely vulnerable. I've often marvelled that we can call ourselves a foreign nation when we're so open to this vulnerability. We've known that our fuel reserves have been an issue for tens and tens of years. The late, great Jim Molan used to talk about this, like on and on and on. Did anyone ever do it? Even while we had a Liberal government, we literally have our closest ally, the US, minding fuel for us so that when it goes on sale, we can buy up big. Here in Australia, we've got nowhere to put it. So the US says, OK, well, we'll chuck some of yours in our fuel reserves. But again, if the worst happened, say we found ourselves in a warlike situation tomorrow, that fuel, even at breakneck speed, is 3 days away. Can you imagine what would happen in our nation? We can't even get vehicles travelling around the country. No one's done anything about it, and I just don't understand how this isn't an incredibly important issue.
All right, so this is all very depressing.